30 seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning to folks. Actually, I think all of the folks who are in the Western Hemisphere, and good afternoon to my viewers in Europe and also in Africa, and good very, very early morning, or perhaps even very late at night, to my viewers in the Pacific Rim. Welcome to the Angry Astronaut. I haven't been broadcasting at this time of day much lately, but this is a special day, as I'm sure a lot of you have noticed. This is the day when we find out who is going to be going back to the moon for the first time in over half a century. We have an interesting crop of candidates, and also unsurprisingly, I think we have a group of people that are an even split between men and women. But before we get to that, let's find out where everybody's checking in from. We have Australia checking in. Thank you so much. Over 100 people watching already. That is so incredibly cool. Thanks so much. You know something? I will talk about that, Larsa. I actually have a plan to do that in a future video on the moon rover. So yes, indeed. Where's everybody checking in from? Once again, thanks so much for checking in. We got Idaho, Romania, London, Maryland, New South Wales, Australia, Seattle, Washington, Yorkshire, Spencer, Massachusetts, Bulgaria, Sweden. Hello, thank you so much for checking in. Florida, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it, guys. Guatemala, hello, Guatemala. Chile, hello. Very nice. Central and South America represented. Sweden, Surrey, Albania. Wow, I've never had a viewer from Albania. That's very cool. Thanks for joining today. Yorkshire, Hinkley, UK. Once again, Florida, Ontario, Colorado. I'm going to be in Colorado very soon, actually, less than 2 weeks, about 2 weeks away. North Coast, USA, Florida, Queensland. Hello, Queensland. In Australia, Argentina, Indianapolis, Essex, England, Spain. Hello. Thanks so much for joining. Portugal. Hello, Portugal. Thank you so much. God, we have such a once again, diverse group of people checking in. Yorkshire, boy, once again, lots of folks from the UK, lots of folks from the north in the UK represented here. And once again, I think it's just because I cover so much UK space flight. Really glad to have you guys joining me. Thank you very much. New Jersey, Pittsburgh, Kentucky. Thank you so much for watching. Mulheim on the Ruhr in Germany. Oh, well, thank you, Carl. Really do appreciate. I didn't actually know that that's the area that you were from in Germany. I'm looking forward to visiting Germany sometime in the near future. So, we have an even split with this crop of astronauts, unlike the way things were done back in the 60s when everybody was a white male. I mean, I guess in some degree of fairness, in those days, probably the only people who had the in order to be qualified for that were white males, but that's simply because everybody else was cut out of the process, even though NASA was much more much more egalitarian than a lot of organizations in those days that didn't extend to who was going to the moon. So in this case, we have a group of astronauts, 50% of whom are women, lots of people who are people of color. Joseph Akaba, Kayla Barron, Raja Chari, and once again, I could be mispronouncing that, Matthew Dominic, Victor Glover, Warren Hoberg, Johnny Kim, Christina Koch, Kjell Lindgren, Nicole Mann, Anne McLean, Jessica Mayer, who I've met personally, Jasmine Mockbelly, Kate Rubens, Frank Rubio, who I believe is still stuck on the ISS right now, Scott Tingle, Jessica Watkins, and Stephanie Wilson. So yeah, a very, very evenly split group of men and women, who, by the way, most of them have a tremendous amount of experience in space. So these are the ones who are going to be selected. No, they have not stacked S24 yet. Carl Magnus, thank you so much for your support once again, guys. If you want to support my upcoming trip to Colorado Springs, I really don't need a lot for it, but I am going to Colorado Springs to a symposium, a big space symposium that they have every year, and I'm going to be doing live coverage of a new technology being unveiled by Dynetics. I've seen what they are unveiling, or at least a rough idea of what they're unveiling, and I can't tell you anything about it. I'm not permitted to say anything about it. I honestly can't believe that they even told me. Kind of mind-blowing, but nevertheless, really cool stuff coming out from Dynetics, and it will be covered live for the first time here on the Angry Astronaut. So super excited about that. Once again, if you'd like to support that, links are in the description for Patreon and PayPal. That's probably the best way to do that. Although super chats, of course, are valued as well. But thank you very much for being a part of that. You guys have been so awesome in making all of these things happen for me. So yeah, we have, as I say, an interesting crop of astronauts. But one thing, in my opinion, is glaringly missing, and it's not a Canadian. There's going to be a Canadian going on one of these first two missions, Artemis II and Artemis III. There are no Europeans. And to me, that is disappointing, because Europe has contributed at least as much as Canada has. Really, all of those European service modules alone have cost a fair amount of money. And in my opinion, Samantha Cristoforetti from Italy is every bit as talented as the people who are listed here. Now, maybe she just doesn't want to go. If she doesn't want to go, then I understand. You know, that Europe may not have a whole lot of other really fantastic candidates with tons of experience like her. But I'll tell you something. She has well over 300 days in space, and what has actually been the ISS commander at one point. Huge amount of experience, and it is disappointing to me that she is not on this initial list, at this initial selection. There are actually only 3 Europeans total through the entire Artemis program that are going to be represented, which means there are 6 times as many Americans in this Artemis team than there are Europeans. Now, of course, this is primarily an American mission. I get it. It should certainly be majority American. I just would have liked to have seen 1 European, 1 Canadian, and 5 Americans in this initial crop. I think that would have been a fair selection, or, you know, a selection that more appropriately represents all of the countries that are involved in this process. But unfortunately, everybody in this initial crop is from North America. And maybe it's just because nobody from Europe wanted to go, or had the experience, at least no experienced people wanted to go in this initial group. But still, it just kind of disappoints me a little bit. Yeah, Tim Peake, a good point. Tim Peake, I think, would have been another person to put on this list. And once again, who knows? Maybe he wouldn't want to go. I mean, these initial missions are going to be dangerous as hell. This is going to be a very, very, very dangerous time. And for anybody who flies on this Artemis II, and especially Artemis III. Artemis III is going to be one of the most dangerous missions that NASA has ever carried out, landing on the moon with Lunar Starship. Lunar Starship will have carried out 1 test run prior to that to make sure that it's a safe vehicle to use. Then after that, it's going to be, running with Starship and keeping your fingers crossed, landing in an area with a lot of rough terrain. The south pole of the moon is very, very different from all of the areas where NASA landed before. The area around Shackleton Crater and all of those landing sites that they have selected in the south polar region of the moon are much, much more risky than any of the areas that Apollo looked at prior to this. They always chose a lot more, flat terrain with a lot of margin for error. That kind of terrain is not as common on the south pole of the moon, and it is going to be a risky endeavor. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting. So anybody who goes on this mission is definitely rolling some serious dice. So this will be interesting at all. The vast majority of these, I think, almost all of these people have been to answer that question, have been to space before. I certainly recognize many of the people. Frank Rubio, for example, is currently on the ISS. Jessica Watkins has been to space. Nicole Mann is an incredibly experienced astronaut. She has been to space a lot. Christina Koch also has been to space a great deal. Kayla Barron also has been to space. Jessica Mayer has been to space a lot. I actually met Jessica Mayer, as I said before, in person in Stennis. She wasn't actually expecting any journalist to be showing up. I just happened to catch her at the Stennis airport, her and her colleagues. She's an interesting person, definitely a very confident individual. And interestingly enough, unlike some of her colleagues, after 6 months in space, she did not really feel the effects of microgravity the way a lot of them did. She just said she felt like there's a great big weight on her for a week or so. And then after that, she pretty much bounced back. And that's not what a lot of other people say. So it's interesting to see the differing experiences that people have when reintroduced to Earth's gravity. So super stuff coming out. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and make an announcement as to the first, and I was supposed to do this before, and I didn't. I don't know why I keep forgetting. I just don't really have much of a brain. But in any event, we've got a winner that I need to go ahead and announce from my first celebration video that I rolled out. I've been running hidden contests in all of these 100K celebration videos. This one is the winner for the first contest that we rolled out, where people were submitting their ideas for videos they would like me to do. And this is Terry Mullins. Terry Mullins is the winner of the first Angry Astronaut contest, and I will be creating a video just for you, Terry. In other words, a video on the topic that you wanted me to discuss, and that is how to beat chemical rockets with lasers and skyhooks. In other words, how to launch from the Earth without having to use chemical rockets, how to get to space without having to use chemical rockets. Neat stuff. So in any event, that is what I will be covering, and that is our first winner. Interesting. So we've got Booster 7 venting at the moment. Yeah, I know that they were doing some quick release grid fin tests, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm sure that they are going to be. I don't know if the pad is clear right now or not. But in any event, yeah, that is, we've got our first winner, and we got more winners to be announced here very soon. Every one of my 100K celebration videos has a hidden contest. And by the way, I haven't made my selection for the rest of those contests yet. So if you haven't watched them, go ahead and watch them and look for those hidden contests. They're not that hidden. They're pretty easy to find. And then go ahead and submit it. Like I say, I'm making these selections pretty much at random. So thanks very much. Pad looks clear. Okay, good to know. I know the pad wasn't clear not that long ago, but I haven't been watching Boca for a little while. So as I've been getting ready for this. So once again, back to the topic. Very interested to hear what's going to be coming from NASA here in just a couple of minutes. We'll be going live to our coverage of the NASA Artemis astronaut selection. Once again, this, for as far as we know, is going to be the selection for Artemis II and Artemis III, the 4 astronauts that will be flying around and orbiting the moon in Artemis II, and then the 3 astronauts who will be be on Artemis II, two of whom will be descending to the lunar surface, one of whom will be a woman and one being a person of color. Now, that may be one and the same. We could have Jessica Watkins going, which would cover both a person of color and a female going, and then you would have somebody else going as well, or we could have two women going for all we know. I'm waiting to hear what's going to happen. There's been, of course, lots of teasers, but we don't know for sure. So I'm very interested to hear this. Extremely interested to hear who's going to be coming from Canada. So yeah, as these selections are made, I will also do my best to try to give you guys a little bit of information on who these people are. Although I think NASA may provide a lot of that for us. So it looks like NASA is preparing to go live right now. Their broadcast has gotten started. Once again, an exciting moment. The Neil Armstrongs, the Buzz Aldrins, the those people that we remember so fondly from the past, those people who became legends not only in their own time but for all time to come. Those kinds of people are going to be introduced to us right now, and that is going to be an exciting thing as well. And of course, I'm especially interested to hear who the first woman on the moon is going to be. This has been a very, very long process for any young woman or any girl who dreamed of going to the moon and thought that would never happen. Well, that's about to change, and that's a big moment for women in space. So I'm super excited about that. That first baby around the moon, yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't think that'll happen anytime soon.
NASA's live and speaking. Should I knock their volume up yours down?
Yeah, go ahead, and just as long as I can be heard.
To Ellington Field,
yeah, let's go ahead
at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. I'm Joe Acaba. Thank you. I'm Joe Acaba, Chief of NASA's Astronaut Office, and I'm joined by Norm Knight, Director of NASA's Flight.
The glitch that we have is apparently on NASA's side, not on ours.
We're here today with the mission to introduce the world to the crew of Artemis II. 4 names, 4 explorers, 4 of my friends answering the call to once more rocket away from Earth and chart a course around the moon.
Well, Joe,
yeah, go ahead.
I agree with you, Joe, but we're going to need a few more astronauts, I think, to get this started. So, everyone, please help me welcome our astronaut corps.
Yeah.
Their audio, obviously, or just live with audio instead of copy written.
Okay. So now we're getting introduced to the entire Artemis team, it appears. And these are all of the astronauts who are in the selection process. Once again, to clarify, these should be Joseph Acaba, Kayla Barron, Raja Achari, Matthew Dominic, Victor Glover, Warren Hoberg, Johnny Kim, Christina Koch, Gail Lindgren, Nicole Mann, Ann McLean, Jessica Mayer, Jasmine McBelly, Kate Rubens, Frank Rubio, Scott Tingle, Jessica Watkins, and Stephanie Wilson.
I'm going to put their audio back on now.
Okay.
Look at that sea of blue. Let's give them another round of applause. Our mission calls for 4 names. It's difficult to pick just 4 from a group that by its very definition attracts the best and the brightest that humanity has to offer. The Astronaut Corps, our entire Astronaut Corps, will be the forerunners as humanity looks to find its place among the stars. So that while we may be recognizing 4 individuals today, I want to thank the entire Astronaut Corps for their dedication and sacrifice as we ask them to strap into our current and future spacecraft, take those next steps to do the things that are hard so that others might follow behind them.
Now, some of you might be scanning the astronaut faces, trying to see who is missing and still hidden backstage. Well, know this, your Artemis II crew members are already here in the room with you.
Video cut out.
They've got a video.
But because I love you all, I'm going to give you one hint. I am not one of them. Don't be so happy about that.
4 for Artemis II, which makes sense.
Ready.
Some news reports are
That
saying we're
SLS
going to get
was
Artemis
prepared
3
to
as well,
launch
but
our
it looks like we're
astronauts
not.
skyward. That Orion was equipped to carry them to the moon and back safely again. Artemis I was a resounding success, and Artemis II will leverage that by putting humans in the loop, executing operations in the critical path, leading to
The
new
X Factor.
footprints on
Yeah,
the lunar surface.
this definitely has a feeling of a reality show to some degree.
I'm just gonna knock their audio off to our viewers just so we don't get copyright strike.
Right. We appear to be, we've been running into some issues during this live stream. Once again, apologize for that. And the reason for that is we've had to cut out the audio because NASA, for some reason, is throwing in copyrighted music. And so by doing that, it puts this video into jeopardy. Usually NASA doesn't do this. So that's a little frustrating. But nevertheless, that's what we got going on right now. So we will see, but it does appear that this is just the Artemis II selection. There were news reports that were suggesting that Artemis III would be included as well, which seemed really weird given how many years away we are. So it's just Artemis II. So 4 astronauts being selected right now, one of whom will apparently be a Canadian. So we'll see. Here we go.
This flight will be challenging, but we face that challenge with the confidence that the people working beside us are up to the task. Houston is home for us, and it's where we'll plan, train, and ultimately fly the Artemis II mission. To give us a proper Houston welcome, please join me in bringing out JSC Center Director Vanessa White.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone here today to Ellington Field. NASA's Johnson Space Center is home of America's Astronaut Corps, mission operations, and foundational human spaceflight programs. This past December, we witnessed history as the Orion capsule journeyed on a 1.4 million mile journey around the moon and back. And the excitement continues as we prepare for Artemis II for the first time with crew. We've made many giant leaps in the past 60 years. Fulfilling President Kennedy's goal of landing a person on the moon. And today, we stand on the shoulders of giants as we reach farther into the stars and push forward to the moon once again and on to Mars. These individuals of Artemis II crew will be the first humans to fly to the vicinity of the moon in more than 50 years. Yes. I'd take a moment to recognize those who paved the way, our Apollo legends, who are with us via the NASA Alumni League. Will you please wave? We are also honored to be joined by some special guests. Please help me welcome NASA leadership, Administrator Bill Nelson, Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy, Associate Administrator Bob Cabana, and many of our NASA leaders who are from headquarters and all across our agency. We're also pleased to be joined by the international community. Representing the Canadian Space Agency is Minister Champagne. Through our international partnerships under Artemis, we're building a global alliance that explores deep space for the benefit of all. I'd also like to welcome the following elected officials: Senator Ted Cruz, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee, Congressman Brian Babin,
So happy you're there.
Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher, the Comptroller of Texas,
Vote
Lynn
to cut the
Hager,
budget.
the Mayor Pro Tem of Houston, Dave Martin, and many other elected officials. Thank you. We're very appreciative of your continued support. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to give a shout out to the NASA workforce and all of those across the agency who came together to make this a very exciting moment and this moment in history happen. So thank you to our workforce.
Through our obligatory thank yous to everybody, which is appropriate, I guess. I mean, I've been a master of ceremonies before.
Joining us today are directors of
You
our
got
NASA
to
centers.
gotta
Will
thank
you
all these
please
people.
stand?
It's understandable.
My colleagues. This mission represents the culmination of years of hard work and dedication by NASA and its partners. This is an exciting time for those working on the International Space Station, commercial crew, commercial LEO destinations, as we continue using those platforms and conduct deep space exploration with the Orion, Gateway, Human Landing System, and EVA programs. Together, our team of civil servants and contractors are enabling the success of the Artemis program. And this is only the beginning. For the students with us today from Houston and Clear Creek Independent School Districts and those watching, you are the future explorers, the future scientists, engineers, inventors, and mathematicians of the Artemis generation.
It's a bunch of lucky kids there. That'd be a special moment.
Under Artemis, we will explore the frontiers of space and push the boundaries of what's possible. You may walk on the moon or be one of the many explorers who venture onward to Mars. We're all looking forward to you being a part of our mission, and I can't wait for you and everyone to meet our Artemis II crew. Thank
So
you.
are we finally going to start saying names?
The Artemis program is guided by decades of experience from sending humans to outer space. We're building new rockets, new spacecraft, new communication systems, and new ways to operate in deep space. But it isn't the technology that is changing. We've also learned that in order to go farther, we have to go together. Please join me in welcoming Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne. He's with us here from Canada, one of our steadfast partners in human spaceflight, ready to send one of their own to the moon. Minister.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Joe, and good morning, everyone. Bonjour, tout le monde. C'est un grand privilège d'être ici pour représenter le Canada. What an honor to be here today to represent Canada on this historic day. In his recent visit to Ottawa, President Biden said this: Canada and the U.S. can do big things because we do that.
And big moment for
together.
Canada, obviously.
And indeed,
Got the first Canadian astronaut ever. The moon. This is just going to be an astonishing
indeed, 50
moment.
years after the end of the Apollo missions, we are going back to the moon. Back to the moon.
Disappointed
Think
that
about
Europe
that
is
for
not
a
going to be
moment.
represented
The
for
moon.
either Artemis II or
As
3.
minister responsible for the Canadian Space Agency, I know Canadians could not be more proud. Proud to have for the first time a Canadian astronaut who will travel to deep space as part of the Artemis II mission. Proud that we will be contributing to the future of the Lunar Gateway with the unique Canadian innovation, Canadarm3.
Harrison
Proud
Phillip.
that Canada will design, build, and operate a lunar utility vehicle to support operations on the lunar space. And proud of the 60-year plus of collaboration between NASA and the Canadian Space Agency, a partnership which is fueled by bold initiatives and scientific excellence. And most importantly, Canadians could not be more proud to share this moment with our American partners and friends which are here today in Houston. We would not be here today without the friendship and close partnership between our two nations. Because this is more than just about going back to the moon. This is about investing in the future. This is about possibilities. This is about seizing the opportunities of the space economy, from health to food security, to climate change, and much more. So as we embark together on this new space era, let's seize the moment. Let's be ambitious, and together let's inspire the young people watching us to reach for the stars and become the next generation of scientists, engineers, and explorers. Merci tout le monde. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Au revoir. Come on, let's get on with it. They have to do this, but it's kind of odd to see everybody kind of looking for their 15 seconds of fame here. I'm such a cynical person.
Little introduction. Our agency leaders who know firsthand what it takes to fly in space. Please join me in welcoming NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy, and Associate Administrator Bob Cabana.
Hey, everybody. Members of the NASA family and the Canadian Space Agency, my colleagues, my former colleagues, members of Congress, members of the Artemis generation, we are going. Pam, Bob, and I operate as a team, as a crew. And we are here today to introduce you to the crew that will launch next year, 2024, to another celestial body. The largest, most powerful rocket in the world is going to propel them.
You can still say that for the moment.
Into the heavens. And they fly to the moon. This is Artemis II mission. It's a mission that is significant in many ways. It's a demonstration of our ability to push the boundaries of human achievement. It's a testament to the unwavering passion of the team that will make it possible. And it's a message to the world. We choose to go back to the moon and then on to Mars, and we're going to do it together. Because in the 21st century, NASA explores the cosmos with international partners. We will unlock new knowledge and understanding. We've always dreamed about what more is ahead. Why? because it's in our DNA. It's part of us. It's who we are as adventurers.
Bill Nelson was an intimidating guy when he stared me down.
And throughout history, humankind has gazed up at this celestial body, the moon, with wonder. The space program propelled the moon to the forefront of culture and consciousness. It galvanized a historic effort that we are now the stewards of. The moon is a symbol of our can-do spirit. And over the course of the Artemis mission, the first woman and the first person of color
Funny people. You got some funny viewers.
On the lunar surface. It's been more than a half century since astronauts journeyed to the moon. Well, folks, that's about to change. The mission to the moon will launch 4 pioneers, but it will carry more than astronauts. Artemis II will carry the hopes of millions of people around the world. It will carry the aspirations of the NASA family who glance up at the moon every night, knowing their efforts will return us to the moon. And it will carry the dreams of students who burn the midnight oil in libraries and laboratories, preparing one day to support an Artemis mission. And it'll carry the inspiration of the children who imagine themselves soaring in the skies. We will show what is possible when we dare to reach.
Well, I don't disagree with you there, but the problem is that there are no Europeans even on the potential list of candidates. There's only Americans and Canadians on the list. I mean, there's not even anybody included from Europe who could theoretically go. So regardless of what reshuffling happens, nobody from Europe will go on these missions. And to me, that seems like an oversight, unless ESA just wanted it to be that way, which maybe they did.
And I want to acknowledge again our Canadian partners, Minister Champagne, Francois Philippe.
Japanese are also going to be sending at least one astronaut on the Artemis missions in the future, but not on this particular grouping.
The Artemis II crew represents thousands of people working tirelessly to bring us to the stars. This is their crew. This is our crew. This is humanity's crew. May I introduce them to you all?
Now let's go.
She's an engineer who got her start at Goddard and is no stranger to breaking records, logging the longest continuous space flight ever by a woman, your mission specialist, Christina Hammond.
Excellent choice. And not unsurprising. Tremendous amount of experience, obviously. From Grand Rapids, Michigan, selected in 2013. Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, Bachelor of Science in Physics, a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering. Enjoys backpacking, rock climbing, paddling, surfing, running, yoga, all kinds of stuff.
He's a Master of Science in Physics, an F-18 pilot, and a Canadian astronaut. Your mission specialist, Jeremy Hansen.
For some reason, it's not coming up on my phone, but I've got...
He's a naval aviator and test pilot that's flown over 40 different aircraft, Most recently, the first operational commercial crew mission. Your Artemis
Victor
II
Glover
pilot, Victor Glover,
is our third selection. Glover is from Pomona, California, also part of the astronaut selection team from 2013, Bachelor of Science from California Polytechnic State University, a Master's of Science in Systems Engineering. He began his pre-flight training in Pensacola, Florida, and completed advanced flight training in Kingsville, Texas, earning his wings of gold on December 14th, 2001. He was a Marine pilot, and as said before, flew an F-18.
He's a decorated naval aviator, test pilot, and leader of the highest character. Your Artemis II commander,
Thank
Reed
you.
Wiseman.
Reed Wiseman is our last selection. Once again, interesting, not on the list. I mean, the first one, that was obvious because of the okay, he was a flight engineer aboard the ISS for Expedition 41 from May through November of 2014, 165 days during that particular mission. From Baltimore, Maryland, and his wife Carol survived by their 2 children. Well, his mother. Could be. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Artemis II crew.
And by the way, James, thank you so much. My God, a huge super chat coming in from you guys. Amazing indeed.
Right, I'm going to take NASA off screen now because most people were just here for the announcement. I'm going to put it back to just you without the NASA stream because they're playing more music I can't play.
Okay, really quick. For my Canadian viewers, I apologize. I was thrown off initially. Actually, I was thrown off twice because NASA had a list of their astronaut candidates for under training and for the Artemis mission, and it didn't include Reed Wiseman, and of course Jeremy Hansen didn't pop up because he's on the Canadian list, which I had on my phone here instead. Just to thoroughly cover Jeremy Hansen, he was born in 1976 from London, Ontario. He also is a fighter pilot, by the way. We have lots of fighter pilots amongst this group. He's a Bachelor of Science in Space Science and a Master of Science in Physics. He has a flight certification as a transport pilot, interestingly enough. He also speaks English and French, like many Canadians. And let's see, what else? Raised on a farm, Ontario, married with 3 children. He, as I say, holds a Bachelor of Science in Space Science from the Royal Military College of Canada in Kingston, Ontario. And he earned a Master of Science in Physics from the same institution in 2000. I'm sorry, go ahead, producer.
Sorry, I was just letting you know the Booster 7's venting. That's what you can hear in the background now.
So we got Booster 7 venting in the background, apparently. So yeah, he's had a lot of service in the Canadian Air Force before becoming an astronaut candidate. But yeah, that is Jeremy Hansen. So interesting that out of these 4, now of course on Artemis 3, we are going to have at least 1 woman as well. So we may have had an even split between men and women on the candidates, but we did not have an even split on these 4. But that is fine. That once again indicates that they are going for the most qualified. It also may be simply a term of a question of availability, a question of planning, that sort of thing. But nevertheless, we have an interesting crop of people who have been selected for this first mission, which, by the way, is, of course, as most of us know, not landing on the moon, but rather just orbiting the moon rather quickly, actually. Compared to future Artemis missions, this first one is, I wouldn't necessarily say unambitious, but not something that's going to be as much to write home about as the future ones. Obviously, nobody landing on the moon and a short duration mission. Once, pardon me, go ahead.
So even the damn moon crew will likely spend
Yes, that's a good point. Producer just pointed out that the Dear Moon crew, when that when that mission goes, will most probably spend more time orbiting the moon than this Artemis II crew. Now, once again, I don't want to shortchange what these people are doing. They are going to be the first human beings to travel far beyond the environs of our Earth. I mean, obviously, the ISS orbits, a very short distance above the surface of the planet, and even the Inspiration missions, which went a bit further, even those were only a few hundred miles away. Well, we have one Inspiration mission, another one going soon that's going to fly even further. But nevertheless, these are tiny little hops as opposed to the enormous leap that is going to be made by these four brave individuals. So I don't want to shortchange what they're doing, but at the same time, compared to the missions that will follow them, this one is not quite as exciting. So in any event, we have Nicole Mann, who's been, or no, I'm sorry, Christina Koch, who's going to be flying on this. Like I said, I've been trying to keep all of this straight. An amazing list of accolades for her. I've always been a big fan of hers. In any event, just to give a list of all of her accomplishments: Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, Bachelor of Science in Physics, Master of Science in Electrical Engineering from North Carolina State University in Raleigh, which is a very good school, by the way, very respected school here in the South, and an honorary PhD from the North Carolina State University. So essentially, she has 2 bachelors and 1 master's. So pretty good accomplishments on top of everything else that she has done. So a very, very experienced astronaut, and an extremely good choice for this program. And like I say, exciting stuff coming from these people. Again, some of this a little unexpected, not all of them even from the official list. But nevertheless, all of these people are going to be coming under a great deal of examination, a great deal of scrutiny, as to kind of check out their lives, and they're going to be on camera a lot. Also, Victor Glover, the first African American to orbit the moon, he obviously is going to come under a great deal of scrutiny as well. Again, part of the 2013 astronaut crop, Bachelor of Science in General Engineering from California Polytechnic, as I said before. Also a Master's in Science and Systems Engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School. He also has other post-secondary degrees, apparently. As I say, from California, trained in Texas and other places. A hell of a pilot, apparently, flying again with the Blue Blasters, as they are called. He was also selected as an exchange pilot to attend the Air Force Test Pilot School, so did some Air Force pilot training as well as his other training in the past. I tell you, obviously lots and lots of pilot training for this guy. Over 3,000 hours worth of piloting in more than 40 different aircraft. And one of the most difficult things a pilot can do, 400 carrier landings and 24 combat missions. So this obviously is a guy with a tremendous amount of experience as a pilot. So we definitely have some great candidates here. There's no question about that. Super excited about all of this. As I say, the only thing that let me down slightly was the fact that we didn't have any Europeans included in this group, nor will we have any Europeans included in Artemis 3. Would have been nice out of those initial 7 to have 1 Canadian and one European. But sadly, that is not what is happening. And I hope at some point, unless she just doesn't want to go, that Samantha Cristoforetti gets included. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm good at sounding like I can speak Italian, like Jen from the IT crowd, but I can't actually speak it. But in any event, she has a lot of time in space. As I said, more time in space than the vast majority of the people who are in this Artemis group, all of the candidates. She's also been an ISS commander, and she's a fighter pilot, just like a lot of these other folks. So definitely qualified, but not included. Once again, maybe she just didn't want to be included, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like either ESA chose to be excluded or they just weren't. And I'd really, since since Administrator Nelson called this humanities team, since he used those words. And it isn't humanities team unless you include as many people from across the globe as you can, as long as they're qualified, as long as they are very qualified. And I'll tell you something, Europe definitely has some super qualified people. It looks a little bit more like humanities team. All of that having been said, though, I'm not going to take anything away from these 4 amazing people that they have selected, people of an incredible breadth of experience, huge amounts of time in space, huge amounts of time in the cockpit, amazing astronaut candidates, and again, the first human beings to be returning to the moon, not to the surface of the moon, but still returning to the moon in over half a century. I can't imagine how excited these people feel. Smash that like, hit that subscribe, people. Also, as I've said before, if you want to support my upcoming trip to Colorado Springs to the Space Symposium to cover some new technology being rolled out by Dynetics, the links are in the description. So very excited about that. And of course, super excited also about covering Starship. I have my flights and hotel set up for that as well. And none of this would be happening without your support. So thank you so much for all of that. And as always, stay angry about space.